Hey, bats, kiddos, Joker here, and you're listening to the Bob Culture Podcast.
All right, everybody, Avengers assemble. We're already having fun over here on the Bob Culture Podcast. Special, the Joker's here too. Special Avengers Infinity War edition. Now, I am joined by my super team of friends. Of course, we got my beautiful wife, the front woman of the great band Vection. I hear the drummer's pretty good too. Of course, Miss Kate Ortiz. Kate, welcome.
Hi, you forgot light of your life.
Light of my life, etc. My whole world. Speaking of my whole world, we're joined by avid comic fan, Mr. Eddie Souls, my former lover. How are you, sir?
Former?
Yeah.
This is news to me.
My good buddy. How are you, man?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
It's good to see you, bro.
You
too. We have some handsome faces over here as well. Of course, we're joined by writer-director, Mr. Jeff Masella, my good friend, and he loves Infinity War, so I know he wanted to do this one.
What's up, man?
What's up,
Good
bro?
to be here.
Thanks for coming, bro. And of course, we got Lord Vader himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Chris Francis. Chris, how are you, bro?
Doing well, Rob. Thanks.
Good. And of course, to round up this super team, we are joined by the man, the myth, the legend himself from Nando versus Movies on YouTube, an awesome channel with some really good videos. I was watching one the other day. What if Rose was a spy for The Last Jedi? It was really interesting. Kind of changing the villain a little bit. Ares on Wonder Woman. Some really interesting stuff. Of course, we have Matthew Kelly from Nando versus Movies. Matt, how are you, man?
What's up? I'm good. I'm living in a post-Infinity War world, so I'm adjusting to that, which is something I didn't expect to have to come out of a Marvel movie from. But yeah, I'm loving it.
Dude, us too, and for the most of us here, just literally saw it hours ago, so we're getting some pretty raw emotions here. And you guys ready to go? What do you think?
Totally.
I'm all set.
Engage.
20-something years building up to this. So.
Yeah, totally. Totally. All right, guys, let's get into it. I wanted to talk first about the pacing of this movie because, let's face it, right out of the gate, I mean, they were moving along. Jeff, what did you say to me? They hit the ground running pretty much. That first scene, we had Thor. We saw Thanos right out of the gate. And pretty much Heimdall and Loki are out of the equation immediately. By the way, spoiler alert, everybody.
Rewind.
But, yeah, I mean, what was your initial reaction at the beginning of this film? Jeff, I'm going to start with you because this is one of your favorite comics. What did you think of Thanos right out of the gate?
Well, I thought the best part about Thanos was that they actually showed the human side of him. And up to this point, he's always just been the kind of Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, just
the little glimpses.
Yeah, just controlling things, pointing the characters in different directions that he wanted them to be in, and now he gets on the ground, he gets his knuckles dirty, and he's like handling business, which is basically what he does in the Infinity Gauntlet comic book from beginning to end.
Like ultimate villain.
Ultimate villain, in my opinion, and he's very Shakespearean, which I loved.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's like there's like suffering and just anguish in his eyes throughout the whole movie. He's not enjoying it, but he is at the same time, which I think is like the beautiful part of his character, which is what it is in the Infinity Gauntlet comic book.
Yeah,
it's not about he has this ultimate agenda where he's like coming in and he's like, I'm gonna destroy every human. I want to blow up Earth. I want to destroy love. Like I'm gonna like take apart like everything that means anything to anybody. He's just like, I want balance, and that's what makes his character
interesting,
really relatable in some senses, and beautiful in others. I don't know. I'm a huge Thanos fan. And
yeah, I know he's always been one of your favorites. That's why I wanted you to lead off.
Since I was a kid, when I first read the Infinity Gauntlet, like his character resonated with me because he was tortured, emotionally as a young child, and then he became the Mad Titan, and to see this like played out in film was like
they nailed it.
I don't want to say that they nailed it. I would say like due to copyright infringements.
Yeah.
there were some things that were missing from the story that I thought were really important, but
Thanos helicopter.
What's that?
Thanos helicopter.
Thanos helicopter, yeah. But I think that they did as good a job as they possibly could have done, and I think it's opening doors for the next film that will enable this movie to become what every child wanted it to be from like 20 years ago.
Cool. Well, very well said. Matt, I'm going to throw it over to you real quick. I know you're a big comic guy. What did you think of Thanos, like right out of the gate? What was like your first impression?
I thought, well, I guess the first thing we saw him do was just destroy all the Asgardians, and that scene was just perfect for, like, I don't know what we're supposed to kind of like about Thanos a little bit. Like, he's very calm. He knows what he's after. As far as like Marvel villains go, I really dig him. I thought the motion capture was as good as it's ever been in one of these movies. Like, there were so many scenes where we were just looking at his face and, you know, like seeing him smile or cry, and we're reading really, really, you know, really subtle emotions coming from Josh Brolin, and I was just really impressed by that. Like, there were some effects I didn't love 100%, and I think, you know, I think overall it was way above average, but specifically, I mean, Thanos was great. I'm pretty happy that they changed his motivation from what it is in the comics, even though the comic motivation is cool. I think this had a lot more. I just thought there was a lot more meat, and what he was saying wasn't correct, but you completely understood what he was going for, and I thought that was really. I never thought they'd be able to do that. Whatever it was, 6 years ago when Avengers came out. So yeah, he was awesome. I like the sleeveless shirt too. It was a great move. He looks great. He's great.
His biceps are sick.
Yeah, his biceps. Yeah, no, totally. I agree. I think they pulled it off. I was really impressed by Thanos. You know, villains are always hard. You know, kind of to like Matt's movie about Wonder Woman. Like, the villain was probably the weakest point in that movie, and what a great movie that was. But villains are always hard, you know. And I thought Thanos was really good. And not to say I agreed with his, views. I definitely kind of understood. I don't know if that's the right word, you know.
Well, I think that's like the important part of every villain. Like, up to this point, I would say, and I think most people would agree, that Loki, Ultron, and now Thanos are the three greatest Marvel villains. And Ultron and Thanos really aren't far apart. They're pretty much have the same ideology. Like, Thanos wants to balance the universe, but Ultron was like trying to protect humanity from itself. In a sense, it's sort of the same thing, but it's kind of interesting how there's this theme going on where it's just like we need to find a balance, and I think that's what it's leading up to, and it should be interesting how that leads into the next movie. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to see what's coming next. Any of you guys want to weigh in on Thanos? Like, anything you guys thought about Thanos in particular?
It bummed me out a little bit when he explained why he was doing things, and I was like, "See your point, Thanos."
No. I'm the dark side. The dark side.
Crap.
My wife, ladies and gentlemen.
And that's all I had to contribute.
There are probably 4 billion people that suck.
Yeah,
there's a definite relevance.
This is not what I was trying to accomplish by doing the podcast here.
No, there are too many people and not enough resources. Genocide's generally not the way you want to, fix that problem.
But if it's not painful.
It's still genocide, Jeff.
That's true.
Yeah.
Just saying, though.
Still not great.
Oh, boy. This took a turn. All right.
There's emotional pain.
Let's move on, shall we? So, first of all, like right out of the gate, Loki's out. And, Jeff kind of said Thanos had that Shakespearean kind of attribute to him. He did kind of say, this time no resurrection or something when he killed Loki. So I don't know if that was kind of like to the audience, like, yeah, he's dead. I don't know.
It did seem
it's
like
Loki.
sorry,
it's
guys.
Like, yeah, okay,
he's
he's dead. And I guess, I don't want to say anyone's expendable, but at the same time, it's comic books and everyone comes back. So,
but at the same time, he didn't know Doctor Strange was playing tricks on him, and Loki is the
trickster.
Yeah, he's the master of mischief.
Good call. You think
so? It may not have actually been Loki getting killed.
It occurred to me, but that's why I was thinking maybe that's why they gave us that line to kind of be like, "Yep." But who knows?
Yeah, I feel like it kind of served that purpose a little bit, that line.
Come here, like, yeah, he's dead.
Yeah, I also try to subscribe to the idea that, like, when somebody dies off screen, like, everything's fair game. In Thor, it was Thor 1 that he died, or Thor 2, or both.
I think it was 2.
Okay.
Oh, both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Both, okay.
The Bifrost in one, and then he gets stabbed by the big giant guy with the horns in Thor 2.
Yes.
That's right.
Well done, sir. Yes.
But for this one, it seemed like a much more obvious death for him to go out just being choked out by Thanos, and like he's just like lying there dead, rather than kind of like disappearing.
Yeah, they like he had done in the past. I'm with you.
Yeah, I agree. If someone doesn't die on screen, then I'm like, nah, they're not dead.
Yeah.
All right, totally, guys.
Red
But
Skull.
You guys think Heimdall's gone? I think it's fair to say that's
Yeah.
Sadly, yes.
Oh yeah, he's done.
Yeah, the
It's
end.
over.
Yeah, but I do love that they have like a lot of these like we have all these big names. We have I wouldn't say minor characters, but like these side characters in the movies. I noticed a lot of them. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the character interaction here. This is one of my favorite parts of the movies. Since the movie did hit the ground running and I was on the edge of my seat pretty much the whole film, I was really concerned. Like, I really wanted some quippy lines. I wanted some great dynamics between characters, and I wanted to laugh a little bit, even though it was a very serious movie. Let's face it, I think we all know some people were going to go out going into the movie. We didn't necessarily know who, but we all had that feeling. And I thought they delivered. Like, they were able to pull it off, like getting that funny dialogue. Stark got his quips in. And I just wanted to talk about a bunch of the character interactions. I had a lot of favorites. What were some of your guys' favorites? Like, like for instance, Stark and Strange, Rocket and Thor. Who did you guys like?
I really liked Star-Lord and Thor.
Star-Lord
Yeah,
and Thor.
that
And
was
why is
great.
that?
That was
Yeah.
All
the handsome
the,
men.
the ego and the insecurity from Star-Lord.
Who can
'cause
talk more
Thor's
with
so
a deeper
handsome,
voice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was like doing the accent.
Pirate Angel.
The Pirate Angel, yes.
I did like that. Drax was just like, "Wow, he's so handsome."
Now that's a man.
Yeah.
No, you are a dude. He's a man.
Batista.
How do you not?
I'll tell you what, Batista kills it as Drax too.
Yeah.
Like when he went into acting, he was one of my favorite wrestler or anything, but he crushes it as Drax, and he does that comic relief slash, really vengeful person, losing his, trying to get revenge on what was it, Ronin and now Thanos for killing his family. He's awesome. He's great. I digress though. Go ahead, talk about your handsome men. I know you want to.
Oh, just so many handsome men.
just like this room.
There's one wearing Wolverine socks right now.
That would be me.
my goodness.
Be jealous.
So
The
much
handsomest
romance in
of
this
them
room.
all.
Yeah. Oh man. You guys are knuckleheads. What about? Oh, and then one more thing. Talking about speaking of the handsome men, what did Thor say? You grew a beard like mine, or something.
Oh,
to
yeah,
Captain
him.
America.
Captain
That was
America, yeah.
great. That was great. And I'm going to throw it back to Jeff real quick because Jeff did not like Thor Ragnarok at all, pretty much because of just the, as you call it, the Saturday Night Live version of Thor, where he was just a little too silly, which I get. He was very funny in that movie. Do you think Thor kind of redeemed himself in this one? Was he more Thor-like in this movie?
Well, I felt like there was a good balance for his character because he was still the God of Thunder, and I felt like that he was humbled a little bit by the situation that was going on, but he still had a little bit of sense of humor. Whereas in like Thor Ragnarok, I felt like it was just a shit show of like SNL skits over and over and over again. To me, the only thing that saved Thor Ragnarok was the fact that Jeff Goldblum was in it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And the only thing that carried over from that movie that I did not like in this movie, and it was the only complaint I had about this movie, was the Hulk's insecurity about getting his ass whooped by Thanos.
That was interesting.
Which is like, I think he was like, no, I'm not going to come out. I'm not going to come out because I just got my ass whooped by the purple guy.
Yeah.
And that's what bothered me the most. And I felt like that was sort of a cop-out in a sense because it's been like that since the beginning. Hulk is so powerful, they don't know what to do with him. So at times, they do things like that.
It's like
where-
a
Bench him.
yeah,
stuff.
bench
they,
him, yeah.
they sort of handicap him or bench him because it's like he's the Hulk. Like, what are we gonna fucking do with him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
I feel
my
like they did
standpoint.
that with Vision too. Like he didn't, he was just injured and kind of on his last legs the whole movie. Whereas if he was in full form, he would, be a much bigger asset in the whole Wakanda fight at the end. Whereas he's kind of just,
Totally, yeah. He was going to have the suit.
Yeah, and why didn't they have Scarlet destroy the gem ahead of instead of like having Shuri like try to destroy the gem? Why they knew if Vision knew that Scarlet could destroy it. Why didn't they just have her go into a room in a lab and just blow that shit out of his head, like way before Thanos was showed up?
She didn't want him to die.
Yeah, they wanted him
I don't want to get Last
live.
Jedi in this, but I mean, that's just basically the way I felt about that. Was like really my one of like 2 complaints about the whole movie. Otherwise, I thought it was perfect.
I think her whole thing is that, she was in love with him, so it wasn't just like, oh, well, I'll just kill you, it's fine. She wanted to find a way to extract it from him so he could still exist, because they were like, oh, we have so many pieces, maybe he could be just his own thing. So Zuri was going to, take it out, and then they were going to destroy it. But I feel like they definitely could have, tried to do it earlier. They took their time, for sure.
No, that's something I noticed as well. We were talking earlier, actually, before we started the podcast, and we weren't sure, we had some theories, what was going on with the Hulk, why he wouldn't come in. And Chris, I think you were saying it was because he was scared. I mean, essentially, he was scared to face Thanos, right?
I think it's just ego was bruised.
Yeah.
That's all it was. It was the Hulk's ego was bruised, and he was like, "No, I'm not going to do it."
He's never gotten a beatdown like that before.
Yeah, exactly. When Thanos punched him in the shoulder, and you could see him clearly take a couple steps back, and Hulk was clearly in pain, and there was still a bunch of blows that happened after that. The Hulk knew, I'm way overmatched at this point.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt. I know you wanted to weigh in about the Hulk.
Oh, he just listen, I love the Hulk. I was so confused as the movie was ending, and I know we'll probably talk about this a little bit, but how the Hulk was in the trailer as that last shot of here they all come and there's the Hulk, and we never got any Hulk.
Yeah.
But I didn't mind it because I just like Mark Ruffalo so much in these movies that when the big ending, whatever happens, like in Age of Ultron, they just have to, toss him away, and then we get the Hulk. More Mark Ruffalo is always good. Yeah, he's definitely just sad because he got beaten up, and he's just, I don't know. He is kind of an insecure baby. You don't really get to spend a lot of time with him, as a character. But in Ragnarok, we kind of found out he's super immature, and he doesn't, he just doesn't get it. So this is probably the first time that we've actually seen that character kind of grow at all, or I guess we will once he becomes brave. But usually it's just Mark Ruffalo does a bunch of things and then we get some Hulk. But now, yeah, it was the opposite. I don't know. I liked him in the Hulkbuster suit. Did look that was a little bit of the dodgy CGI, him just standing there.
We were talking about, we were mentioning that too.
The series scene, and he just has this weird floaty head thing.
Mark Ruffalo.
It was weird to see kind of Hulk be he didn't say Hulk scared, but he was what did he say? Hulk no cum, or what did he say? It was when his face
said no a bunch of
Hulk
times.
no or something. Yeah. Yeah. That was interesting, but like you said, it's a way to bench him, and I don't know.
Well, what Matt said too is a good point. Is there's not a lot of time to develop the character of the Hulk, which I feel like kind of works a little bit against him in those moments, because you don't really know totally why. It's just kind of almost, you can explain it in one sentence, but there's a little bit of a lack of depth as to why he's struggling so much with the idea of coming back out and facing Thanos. He's just kind of.
I was waiting for Tony Stark to do the performance issues joke again.
Yeah, exactly. I was waiting for that too at the beginning with Doctor
from
Strange.
the end of Avengers when he Loki tries to,
Robert Downey Jr. always knocks out.
I was waiting for that joke, but in the comic book, the Drax and Hulk run at Thanos, and one of my favorite shots ever is Thanos bitch slap backhanding both Drax and Hulk at the same time.
Power.
Yeah. And I was chomping at the bit for that shot. Just to show how strong Thanos was that one single open hand backhand that sent both of the two strongest dudes that we know just right on their ass.
Power.
And it didn't
Jeff has a
happen.
big smile on his face right now, by the way.
It's because it when I was a kid, when I read the Infinity Gauntlet, it threw the whole Marvel universe on its ass. And it was something that was needed, and I couldn't wait to see this on film. So that's probably one of the things that I'll be upset about. But it may happen in the next movie. We never know.
You know what, Jeff? I see you have a big smile on your face. I think you enjoyed it. I
love this movie. Yeah, I thought it was great.
It's fun.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
I don't have many complaints at all.
All right. Yeah, dude, it was awesome.
And
man.
you know me.
We're still like taking it in, you know. So before we get into more character stuff, I'm gonna swerve you guys a little bit. We're gonna talk about just kind of recap everyone how Thanos got all the Infinity Stones, starting with the purple. Was that the power one? The
Power
purple
stone.
Chris, you want to take us on that one? Because Chris, we were talking about this earlier. It tied into Guardians of the Galaxy, right?
Right. Yeah. So he already has it in the beginning, and you only really get that one line mentioning that he went in and basically destroyed the Nova Core.
Yeah,
and
I couldn't
took,
get
and took
there,
it back,
yeah.
which you knew was going to happen at some point. But I think I was expecting a little bit more where they came across it, where instead of it just being a passing.
I guess
obviously he had it, so you already know he went in there and handled business.
Yeah, so again shows his power, and I guess they don't want to take time to concentrate on like every single stone. So I get it, but to your point, Chris, like I always hate it when movies use like one-liners to explain something. Like my big thing, like I had very little qualms with this movie. My big thing was the lack of Hawkeye, especially. I know Ant-Man too, but Hawkeye especially, because he's obviously the core of the Avengers, never really gets his due. And they kind of dismissed him and Ant-Man with some sort of one-liner about something with the Accords or
They're on house arrest.
House arrest. Yeah, come on. Meanwhile, everyone's like above the law and going. Yeah.
Well, I think he said
exactly.
something
And,
about how they
one-line
took a deal.
explanations.
Wasn't there? It was something about like for their to keep their families safe too, or something.
That's
like,
a
'cause they
good-
both have like families, so they were
Good call.
sidelined because of that.
You're absolutely right.
But I think they're saving the. I'm sorry. I think they're saving the. I don't know if you call it the quantum realm from like Ant-Man. I forget what it was called.
I don't know.
But when he goes,
Quantum realm.
Yeah,
Good
I think they're saving that for the next movie, and I think he's going to play a big part in helping out Strange and Iron Man and trying to stop Thanos and get things back to normal. But
Good call. Did you guys notice a lot of the core Avengers, made the cut, so to
Survived,
speak?
yeah.
Survived, or weren't erased from existence. It was usually the core, which is cool. You need like the A team. But I love all those guys, man. I was sad when Falcon went out. I love Falcon.
Yeah.
I know it's sad.
All the quippy characters are gone.
Yeah,
except
all the
Downey.
quippy characters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's
he
Tony
wasn't
Downey.
looking too quippy.
More
on Titan.
more room for Hugh Jackman to check in. Just saying. All right, we'll talk about that later. We'll get there. But what other like character interactions did you guys love? Like I thought Gamora and Thanos was really interesting. I did not expect that. Like going into this movie, I said Gamora is going to be a big deal, obviously. But I said, you know what, Nebula, like she's going to come up big in this movie. Like she's going to like really have like a major impact on Thanos or taking Thanos out. And boy, was I wrong. Like Nebula was like in pieces when you first saw her. How good was that camera work, by the way, where she looked whole and then the
that
camera
was very
turned, she was in
cool.
pieces? Brilliant.
That was amazing. Oh yeah.
Brilliant. But what did you guys think, Matt? What did you think about like the whole Gamora? Gamora? Who's Gamora? That's our brother.
She was great. There were scenes that were just them, like especially the Vormir scene with the Soul Stone, where like if both actors and like the writing wasn't so good, that scene would be awful. Like it would just be such a slog to watch them. Just like, oh, you don't love anyone. I do love people. Like that just would have been terrible. And I think, I just thought we learned so much about their relationship from, the flashback and him telling her, what was important to him. That was why I liked his character a lot in this movie, is because we learned pretty much everything about him just through these, little conversations with Gamora and a couple of things with like Tony Stark. But their interactions is great. I liked him pretty much Thanos with everybody, like Thanos and Doctor Strange, Thanos and Star-Lord, everybody he met I was really, really into. And he likes Star-Lord. He approves of the boyfriend, which is awesome.
That was great.
You gave him a
It was
cool new
great
gun
scene.
too.
And it was cool because I didn't even think about this, but Thanos was trying to trick Star-Lord into, if Star-Lord tried to kill Gamora, then that was the definite yes, she knows where the Soul Stone is like moment. So there was a lot going on in a lot of scenes that kind of took a lot of time, and maybe there was some stuff with with Thor that maybe took a little longer than it needed to, but almost everything else was like really purposeful in this movie, and it makes sense because it's like a 2.5 hour long movie, which is why I get why the assault on Xandar wasn't in this. It's because it wouldn't have really given us that much new information, although it would have made a great Thor Ragnarok post-credit scene, but I get why it didn't make the cut here. But yeah, no, the Thanos and Gamora was excellent. Probably my favorite part of the movie, honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think one of the most important parts was, as far as Gamora and Thanos is concerned, is the flashback scene, because it shows Thanos trying to shield her from the atrocities that are happening in the backgrounds, which adds an element of, I don't know if that's selfishness on his part because he wants a child, or because he actually does care about this individual and he sees something in her. But without that scene, I don't think the scene when he was trying to get the Soul Stone would have worked.
I'm with you.
That scene, without that, it wouldn't have worked. Like, it would have just been like campy and whatever. Like, everyone would have been laughing. Like, he doesn't mean it, Those aren't real tears, but you felt it because of that scene.
Yeah.
So that was really important, I thought.
And by the way, and there's so much to cover in this movie. I mean, help me out if I missed something. There's a lot of ground. I don't want to leave anyone out because everyone's great. But Red Skull checking in out of nowhere. I didn't expect that. That was a nice.
I've been waiting since Captain America for that, because I knew like it has to happen at some point. Like, he gets zapped off into space. Like, all right, he's not dead. He disappeared. Like I said before, like, I don't think you're dead unless there's some real
unless he says there's no resurrection.
Yeah, exactly. If Thanos popped in there, it's like, nope, he's dead.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Looks
so
at the camera.
I was like,
actor was that played Red Skull, because it was not Hugo Weaving. He
it
wouldn't
wasn't.
have come
Yeah,
in for it.
Oh,
it was dude on The Walking
It was just
Dead.
this random guy who's really good at impressions.
I thought it was him.
Apparently
He
he
was-
was on The Walking Dead. I know he's really good at impressions, but
Yeah.
no, Hugo Weaving said no a long time ago, and I guess
No way.
either they
Yeah.
bought him out of his contract, or technically this isn't the Red Skull, this is a ghost of the Red Skull in a cloak, so we can do whatever we want. Sorry. And but yeah, you can look this guy up. I forget his name, but
I think it's
he does
Ross
really good
Marquand
impressions
or
of
something
everybody.
like
That's
that.
why I thought it was flawless. Like, I didn't realize it wasn't him for a second.
That's brilliant. I
Yeah.
really thought it was him.
He looked great and sounded.
I was thinking that Hugo Weaving did an even better job this time.
Yeah.
I was just like, he stopped being Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
Like,
He's really upped his game.
yeah, he really stepped his game up. I was like, it's just the subtleties of Mr. Smith are in there, but it's not Mr. Smith.
Well, what I read is that he's on The Walking Dead in some form or another. I don't watch the show, so I have no idea like who he is or how he relates to the show. But I did read that, which is the only reason I know his name.
Yeah, spoiler. Yeah, we're way past that. Real quick before we move on, it's comics, but do you guys think Gamora's done for? Like, is this the last we see of Gamora? Yes or no?
I would say no.
Ed says no.
I think yes.
You hope so. Matt says he hopes. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, okay, so we're clearly going to reverse all the Ash deaths. Probably I don't think any of the characters that got disintegrated are dead.
Agreed. 100%. 100% agree.
Loki's dead. I'm not even 100% convinced Loki's dead. I think the deal with Heimdall for sure, but I think all the rest of the Thor characters are kind of up in the air. Like, whoever directs Thor 4, assuming, well, even if Thor doesn't make it, I think they get to decide, like, oh, you know what? Korg and Valkyrie escaped, and also Loki wasn't really dead, so they're in this movie now. Like, that's why I think we didn't see Korg and Valkyrie. But either way, if we take those guys out, Vision's probably also 100% dead. The only other character that died is Gamora. I don't think we have, like, if we get done with this movie and only 3 or 4 characters died, we can't get rid of one of them. Like, I think Gamora being dead is very, like, it's just a very fulfilling end to her story. I mean, she could be trapped in the Soul Stone, which is fine, I guess, but I don't know. Plus, originally I was like, I don't think there's any, like, I don't think Mantis can really hold weight as, like, the only female member of the Guardians, but now I'm so sold on Mantis. She was I found her so funny in this movie that I'm like, you know what, I might not need Zoe Saldana for the next one.
Wow. The power. Yeah. Big statement there. Chris, what do you think Gamora's done? You think she's coming back in some capacity?
I kind of agree with him that the people that
that
like were killed don't come back, but all the half the people that died get reversed down the road.
Yeah, I get what you guys are
They
saying.
die for a purpose. You know,
Yeah, and like it's the end of their story. I get it.
Yeah.
I
I mean, her soul being in the Soul Stone is the only thing that would make me think that there's a chance that she would come back. But I think it's still, it's just what do they decide to bring her back? She can probably.
I think.
At what point?
Yeah.
I just don't
what would
see
the purpose of it be?
if you brought her back. What would be the point? I mean, there needs to be some sort of sense of permanence.
Yes,
Especially with
100%
something
right.
that heavy,
You're
because
100% right.
that
Without
was
that,
a very big moment in the movie.
yeah.
To kind of turn that back takes it away from you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You know what? I agree with what you guys are saying, but I'm actually going to respectfully disagree with the outcome. I think that Gamora is going to come back in some capacity. Isn't there going to be another Guardians movie anyway with Sylvester Stallone and his kind of crew? I think Quill's just going to lose his mind if she doesn't come back. I think that'll be, unless that's the way they want to go with the character.
Right.
To Matt's point, I think Gamora is just a huge female character in those movies. And
But basically, all the
yeah.
Guardians are gone, right?
Yeah,
Except for
everyone-
Rocket.
Only Nebula is
everyone
still there. I'm thinking.
Rocket too.
Oh yeah, and Rocket.
Yeah,
Rocket.
Rocket,
Coming
Nebula.
Rocket's the only guardian.
coming back, guys. I'm telling you, don't worry. They're coming back.
What if they don't?
like the
You'll lose your
80s?
mind.
I will. I will lose. I will lose.
Rocket and Corner. They're coming back.
They'll be back. There's going to be another post-credit scene.
It's been 20 years.
Bob Evans in denial.
Wolverine will come back. Hugh Jackman will save them.
Still waiting for Hugh Jackman to come back too.
Oh man,
Dude, if they in the next movie just somehow brought Hugh Jackman back,
I just want a cameo.
that would be amazing.
I just want to see him with the Hulk. I think Matt and I were actually talking about this, seeing, Hugh Jackman Hugh Jackman talked to all these different characters with RDJ. How good would that be? Him with the Hulk. That'd be awesome.
I would love to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine talking to Rocket.
Yeah, totally.
I think that
Totally.
would be hysterical.
That would be really funny. I think they'd get along. They'd be friends.
At the end of the movie, Rocket would be perched on his shoulder.
Yeah, they'd be smoking cigars
Yeah,
together.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this.
I like this guy.
Rocket works awesome with anybody. You pair Rocket with anybody. Who was he with? Yondu in the last
Yeah.
him and Thor were great together in this.
it was
Groot
really
was
good.
there too, obviously. Who picked up Rocket? Him and the Winter Soldier. Bucky, yeah.
Oh my god.
That was
He wants
hysterical.
that arm.
That was the
wants that
Marvel
arm.
Ultimate Alliance move right
Yeah,
there.
I love when they
That's
do
what
that
that was.
Ultimate Alliance stuff. Really good. So just to kind of pick up, we were talking about Mantis a little bit. I thought their plan was so awesome, and just to get the gauntlet off Thanos with Iron Man, Spider-Man, Mantis. I thought that was very, the plan was very Quill, I thought.
Yeah, and then Quill blew it.
And then Quill blew it, and I think all of us knew it was going to happen the way the scene unfolded, and everyone in the theaters just slapping their head at the same time.
Yeah, oh no.
but also, what do you
But how would
the movie
how
ends
would you
there?
react? If someone did that to you.
It's all consistent with his character.
Yep.
He went back to the spaceship or into jail when everyone was trying to escape to get the Walkman, and then he goes off on ego and he says he kills his mom. So yes, Star-Lord has no chill. He can't hold back. He's an impulsive little brat, which is fine. But yeah,
Consistent.
I mean, we all saw it coming, but it was rough because he made the plan and it was so good.
Yeah, they almost had the gauntlet off. I mean, of course, if they got the gauntlet off, the movie would be over and everyone would be
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
And yeah, but still, they almost had it. It was such a great plan.
I feel like it also shows the impact of finding out that Gamora is dead. If he was just well, I'm just gonna stick to the plan. It doesn't feel like it's that emotionally heavy on him.
Good call.
Too,
If it were me,
Crazy scene.
if I was in his position, I would wait till the gauntlet was off, and then I would start beating the shit out of the guy.
Yeah,
it's
that would be
now
the smart
you can't
move.
fight
That's a
back.
smart move, but
Yeah.
it was an emotional reaction.
I know, but you save up the rage, and then you use it when you could take him on.
Because you're not going to fix the galaxy with a pistol whip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he dropped the ball there, but I can say I understand where he's coming from. It was a crazy scene.
And obviously it can't succeed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because then
You know it's not gonna happen,
No part two. Yeah, exactly. Ed, I'm going to throw it over to you. I want to talk a little bit about Stark and Spider-Man, because we had talked a lot about that on the Spider-Man Homecoming podcast we did, and you kind of got really deep into the scene. I think in Civil War they even had together. He puts his hand on his back, and, why are you doing this, Spider-Man? And you could see, like, Spider-Man really wants to make almost like a father figure kind of thing and wants to make him proud. What did you think of that whole relationship with them?
I thought it was a good evolution of that. Yeah, I don't know. I think just even to the way that Spider-Man didn't back down, and he ends up on the spaceship and everything, because he just wants to, he wants to be the hero. He wants to do the right thing, and he knew that, just going back to New York wasn't going to help save the day.
He wasn't being on the bench like the Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. And for my own selfish reasons, I didn't want him to disappear either. So it was good to have him on the spaceship.
Yeah, how heartbreaking was that scene though?
Oh, dude,
he was like, "What do you say? I don't want to go," or Mr. Stark.
Yeah, that was
hugging him.
That was well played too. I thought that again, true to the form of the characters. He's a 15-year-old kid. Maybe he's 16 at this point in the movie. Who knows? But he's he realizes he's going away, and he's 16. I mean, you're going to have, a lot of feels about that. Because everybody else kind of, they disappear and they're like, oh, shit, what's going on? What's happening? But he's like, I'm only 16. My life's over. I'm turning to dust.
He's also the only one that can feel he's dying because of Spider's sense. Everyone else just disintegrates, but he's able to be like, uh-oh, something's wrong, and he sees it coming.
Yeah,
that's the same reason Mantis is the only one who knows something's happening, is because she has the empath powers that I guess let her tap into all the souls of the universe like Obi-Wan Kenobi. But they're
good point. Yeah,
also watching it again because I saw it last night, he is really strong in this movie. He is catching
Spider-Man?
axes that are crashing through Iron Man. He was just punching Thanos. Every other character had to use, all of their strength, and Iron Man had to make all his silly, constructs. And Spider-Man's just punching him with his fists. Spider-Man's really powerful in this universe, which is cool. It's good that he's, it's interesting because he's so young, but he's just, objectively top 3 Avengers right now.
What do you think, Ed?
Yeah, totally. I think about I totally agree. And going back to the first scene in the movie where he's in costume and he jumps in right before, I think it was Corbius Glaive is about to smash Tony with his axe or whatever it is that he has, and he just catches it and he's like, "Hey, Mr. Stark." And he's just holding this giant thing above him, kind of no problem. Which is sort of like in Civil War when he just catches Bucky's punch and he's like, "Dude, you have a metal arm." It's he's not even really trying. He's just "Yeah, I'm way stronger than you." But this is so cool.
Plus he's Spider-Man in an Iron Man suit. So.
Yeah. Oh, I was so happy about that suit finally making it to the
that was
do you like
sick.
the
full-fledged suit,
Oh, the legs were so cool
I was
too.
waiting for that. I was waiting for that for years.
They made great use of that too, in the scenes and how it was used. It wasn't just a cool aesthetic thing. It, there was a lot of purpose to them being used.
It wasn't overused at all.
Yeah.
Really important.
Absolutely.
I would like to just comment on the interaction between him and Star-Lord when they remarked that he defeated the guy with the in the dance battle, and he's like, "What, Footloose?" He's like, "Exactly."
Is it still the greatest movie of all time?
Yes.
No, it was never.
This is one of the greatest movies ever made.
It never was.
It never was. And what
The
was the
people
other
in my
thing that?
theater reacted more to that line than almost any other thing in the movie. Was just,
Yeah, it's great.
man, you got burned. Yeah.
It's great. Did you guys want to touch any more character interactions? I think we
Touch
covered
any
all
more
the big ones.
characters? I want to touch them all.
Heyo.
Oh.
Good.
I feel like I had one, but now I can't remember.
I-
Okay, Vision and Scarlet Witch were pretty good.
I did write that down.
About their relationship, but I liked it. It was nice. It was serviceable in this movie.
Yeah, obviously their relationship had evolved over the past couple of years, and Obviously, we saw what happened to Vision. By the way, she is so powerful.
I love that.
So
I love the comment of
she can
why
do
was
whatever
she
she
inside the
wants.
whole time when they were in the big battle. in
Yeah, when
Wakanda?
Okoye says that.
Yeah.
But then she was in there to protect him, and then when she left, that's when he
Yeah.
like gets
Nobody
jacked
was
up.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, immediately the line okay is like, why isn't he there? And then the Proxima Midnight's like, she's not there. Do the thing that we've been waiting to do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that when like a quippy line would be followed by like a very serious line that's like, these quips are dumb. Like characters making quips are super wrong right now. But it did just show like, man, they weren't prepared for this.
Yeah.
Which was good.
I'm all about the quips, but yeah, timing is everything. I understand what you're saying.
I like the misdirection too, where when Proxima Midnight says that, and what's it called? Obsidian? Is that his name? Because he's injured in that.
This is the one with the stick. Cull is the Hulk one.
Okay, all right, yes, all right. So I got those backwards because I was talking about Corbius Glaive before. So that was Cull Obsidian. But yeah, you think that he's dead because they say that, and like it seems that way, and like, oh well, he's just gone. It's a cool like just little misdirection.
Oh, true. Like when what's her name said that she was like, yeah, his death will be.
Yeah.
something,
Yeah, exactly.
That was clearly too when you watch that again. Black Widow seems to figure out in that first fight that Proxima and him are like together, or it's like they care about each other a lot. And in the comics, they're married or dating or whatever. And then when Scarlet Witch, or not Scarlet Witch, yeah, Scarlett Johansson. When Scarlett Johansson goes over to talk to them, the bubble fight, she gives them that line like, "Oh, is your friend not here?" Just because she wants to like mentally intimidate them, which is cool. She was good. She had a couple good moments, Black Widow, but she was very like subtle in this movie, which was fine. Everybody didn't have to be the main character, which is nice.
They did.
Yeah.
They did kind of balance everybody. I felt like pretty cool, and they did have that girl power moment. I know you like that, Bay.
Of course, I like that.
Yeah.
Which part do you speak of?
So it was the
was-
one
I
of
think it's- what
Thanos'
is it?
cronies,
Yeah,
the
and it
chick,
was Black Widow and Scarlet Witch, was it? And they were both fighting.
and Black Panther's. I forget her name.
What are their
Okay.
names
Okoye?
again? His
Thank you. They,
his children. What are they called again?
yeah,
The
Thanos,
Black
I
Order?
called them cronies.
The
But
Dark Order.
Black Order?
Black Order.
The Black Order.
Black
Yeah.
Order, which is from the new like Infinity Story. The original Infinity Story didn't have them in it.
Oh,
Right.
So when they redid
I'm
the
gonna-
Infinity Story, they were like, "Oh, the Black Order is like Thanos is from every planet that Thanos took over. He took a child that ended up being part of that order, and sort of like what Gamora was. This is what I got out of it from what I read, but I never read
Yeah.
that story. But that's kind
Yeah,
of
I
interesting.
think you're right about that.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. Like these warriors that are fighting for him are just survivors like Gamora of the planets that he's destroyed.
Yeah, they all have
They're
like
sort of like
Stockholm
his-
syndrome.
They're sort of like his
Stockholm
trophies, too.
syndrome, Yeah,
Like
it's kind of crazy.
all of the planets that he's destroyed, he's just taken this trophy and made a warrior out of them.
yeah, he's kind of methodical in a way. It's
He's
interesting.
mad.
Interesting villain.
He's a mad titan.
Yeah, just like Jeff. That's why I likes him so much. Joker popped in again. What's going on here? Someone had mentioned this earlier when we were. I guess we were talking about Vision's Mind Stone. Like, why didn't they just destroy it? Like, all right, like, let's get it out of here. When Stark and Doctor Strange and Wong and all them kind of met up and were like, all right, Thanos is after your Mind Stone. My first thought, this is really early in the movie before the Avengers got there, was, oh, we'll destroy it. Like, because I'm sure there's a million reasons why you can't and why it wouldn't play out. And obviously the movie would be over if they destroyed it. But did anyone else think like, I mean, they didn't get to that point until Vision, like, oh, destroy the Mind Stone. But I was thinking, oh, like, destroy this thing.
Well, they could have destroyed the other ones. If they destroy Vision's Mind Stone, then Vision dies. But and obviously, Doctor Strange didn't want to destroy the Time one because they use it for his whole wizardry nonsense.
Yeah, right.
But one of the other ones, there's a lot of stones. They could have been like, okay, let's find it and destroy it.
Go ahead, Matt.
Then what did the stones do? Or like, because I was thinking about this, like, so the way it's described by Wong and then in the in Guardians, the Collector is like, before time and everything, the universe had the Big Bang, and then these things showed up, and they're everywhere, and they're super important. I was always like, well, so if you destroyed the Time Stone, would that affect time itself, or like power? Like, and then the other thought process I had was like, they assume that they can, that this, human being, and she's really, got a lot of power, can destroy the Mind Stone. I just assume if I'm them, it's going to show up somewhere else, like it's going to reset, because, I don't know, we know nothing about it, but the idea of destroying it seems so, like, kind of,
Impossible.
It seemed like a really strange way to go. I assumed they were going to start using, like, I kind of had a feeling they would get the Reality Stone at some point, which clearly early on they're not going to. But I was thinking maybe it's like 3 stones versus 3 stones, and just, because it would be kind of cool to see, the Mind Stone and the Time Stone actually being used by the good guys. But I guess they don't have the magic glove to do it. But yeah, I did think the plan was a little weird, because also it was like, they're going to destroy it, but also they want to save. I guess the whole, like, we're not trading lives thing, at certain points I was like, all right, Cap, listen, we need to start thinking about the entire universe and not this weird robot that no one's 100% on board with anyway. The Vision in these and his cool pajamas, I thought.
It's cool pajamas.
Yeah, he's cool pajamas. They look like little pajamas sometimes.
Yeah. No, I did like that line though from Cap, only because like Vision said it back to him. I think Vision did that in one of the other movies too, like kind of said something back to someone. Like, he's very endearing, Vision. But I get what you're saying, Matt. Like, it's like, all right, we got to make some choices here. Like, but it was a very Captain America kind of line.
Well, as far as I know, Scarlet Witch's powers come from the Infinity Stones.
Yeah, in the MCU they do.
I was gonna say, wait, she's a mutant, but she can't be a mutant. Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, yeah. She can't be a mutant.
The fact that like Vision was just like towards the end, like, you could destroy it. You don't want to destroy me because like we hook up on the weekends. Like,
we got a thing going on.
Yeah, we got a thing going on.
Like Kate would kill me in a heartbeat.
Look at her eyes.
Yeah.
Greater good, guys. Greater good.
But I feel like that was something that was understated. The fact that Scarlet Witch's powers do sort of supersede everyone else's.
Yeah.
And that she's capable of doing that.
She's definitely a character that they kind of like backseat constantly, but she's so powerful. Like, she could kick all their asses basically, but she's always just like hanging out with Vision, like in a house somewhere.
Right. They're
doing
like
nothing.
Making jambalaya or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
Oh, the Russian.
And then she like shoves Vision down like 100 floors in Age of
like
Ultron. And then her and Hawkeye just like kind of sort of walk out or whatever. And it's whatever.
Like, movies and shows do that a lot with like the most powerful characters. It's just like, if I was the most powerful character in a superhero team, I'd be doing stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, Captain America, I'm in charge now.
You got that Hulk backseat again too. Yeah, same kind of idea.
But they did that with her for every movie. There was no real moment where you're like, wow, Scarlet Witch is going off.
Yeah. Well, I see the point of that in like Civil War though, because they're not trying to like kill each other or anything. So a lot of them are kind of, it was just like almost like a recreational like sparring match between them.
Yeah. I hate those like heroes fight among themselves. Like, obviously it's a big comic book storyline, and I actually love Civil War. That actually got me back into comics way back when. But the heroes fight amongst themselves. Someone gets injured. It almost looked like War Machine went out at that one point. He's got like things to help him walk now. Like, you're just you battle each other. Someone gets hurt. Now you guys aren't working at the same pace, and it's you're all divided, and then you have like a one-liner in this or something like this, and then you're all back together. It's always silly, but it's an interesting story, I guess. Good movie. I like the movie.
It worked in the context that it was in.
Yeah, totally. Everyone was true to their character and their decisions.
Although I'm still against the whole Civil War like sandbox airport fight.
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah.
I felt like it was such a cop-out. They like turned it into like a WWE like Royal Rumble. And they were just like, yeah, everyone hates each other. And now let's Infinity War. Let's get back together.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have gone a little bit more dramatic.
I get what you're saying.
They didn't really get back together. Like, everybody was very divided in the movie. Like, Tony Stark never has a scene with
Cap.
Like with Cap, with anybody in the Secret Avengers. Like, they're doing their own thing. There's no unity there, even though it's all like serving the same story. They don't come together in any way. I mean, the actual Avengers, like Tony, Spider-Man, all them, and the Guardians, like, they're doing their own thing, and Secret Avengers are in Wakanda, so they never really have like a moment where they unite or anything like that.
They did a great job with this in this movie, like splitting everyone up and keeping it interesting, and having certain characters kind of meet up here and there at like the right times. Like I thought that was really cool. I thought that, first of all, Spider-Man, he got knighted as an Avenger. That was a cute. You're an Avenger. Like that was great. RDJ, he's the man.
He's the best.
Oh, it was great. Oh,
Face after that when he like stood at attention was Tom Holland's
So
the
an
best.
Avenger.
such a good movie. Oh, I'm just smiling thinking.
He
about
really
it.
is the best Spider-Man that we've had.
He's really great.
I
Ed,
agree.
Ed, you could concur with that.
For sure.
For sure, absolutely. But another thing that I liked, we kind of followed Thanos, like almost like he was the main character in a way. We followed his story. We kind of empathized with him at some points, and I love that he used the Infinity Stones to get the other Infinity Stones. I thought that was brilliant. Like when he went through time to reconstruct the Mind Stone. I thought, oh, that's brilliant. He had like whole worlds kind of behind the curtain, so to speak. Just with I forget the name of the red stone from Thor.
Reality Stone.
The Reality Stone. I just loved how they used all that. I thought that was very well done. Just pointing that out.
Yeah, I agree. I think like it's a good way to tie everything together too, because if you're trying to make too many of the heroes like the lead in the story, it kind of takes away from them. I felt like all the heroes were sort of like the second fiddle to Thanos. He was like kind of just running the show. He was the main focus of the movie, and kind of where he was is where the other heroes kind of entered into the fold.
We're being corny. All right. Anyway, we're back here, and we are going to talk a little bit about Easter eggs in this film. Now, I didn't really see too many because, in the other films like Thor, I remember seeing the actual Infinity Gauntlet, and which I think in Ragnarok they kind of said it turned out to be a fake, and they made a joke. So the Easter eggs are always fun in these movies, but I felt like all the Easter eggs really led up to this movie, so I didn't really see a lot. Matt, I know this is like your specialty, bro. I'm sure you got some videos coming out for this movie, but what do you got for us, man, Easter egg wise?
All right, so here's some ones that I thought were extra weird. Let's see. So we were talking before about the Thanos copter as just like a concept, which is from some like tie-in comic. Spider-Man and Hellcat had to fight Thanos, and he had a silly helicopter. I am pretty sure that's why that helicopter crashes in the end of the post-credit scene. I think they realized they needed a helicopter in this movie just to not do it, because there's no way he's having a helicopter.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting connection.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I'll work backwards. The when Thanos was on the farm at the end, when he's all chill and zen, there's like a scarecrow in the in the frame, like far on the left or right, depending on where you're looking at him. That's a reference to when he was a farmer and he like decided to take up a quiet life of being a farmer, and he hung his armor on a scarecrow in the middle of a field, which is, it's kind of cool. It's a very strange, just like conceptual thing, but that one was pretty good.
Nice.
I did not catch that.
2 for 2, man. All right, keep it going.
In Scotland, before Vision and Wanda are attacked, they walk by a restaurant that has an advertisement for deep fried kebabs right before Vision gets stabbed with the glaive. So he is made into a kebab. Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know if this is as much of an Easter egg, but I didn't catch this the first time, and then I kind of realized what they were going for. So in the first scene, Thanos runs into Loki, and he's, they're kind of having their little back and forth. And Loki says to Thor, he's like, "Don't worry, the sun will shine on our future," or something like that, which I didn't realize was Loki referencing, because the sun's getting real low as the Hulk is going to fall asleep word. So I think that was his way of saying, like, don't worry, Hulk is about to come up because the sun's coming up. I don't know if that was intentional, but so my favorite 3.
Interesting.
That
The game
works.
Groot is playing is a game called Defender, and it's about getting in your spaceship and fighting aliens and stopping them from taking people from Earth. So that one's definitely a pretty direct, intentional one.
Nice.
The first song we hear with the Guardians, and like the only song pretty much in the movie, is Rubber Band Man by the Spinners. I had to look this up, but the person who wrote the song said that his son in school was called the Fat Man, so he wanted to make a new nickname for his son, and he said, quote, the rubber band man is the big guy that everybody waits for at the party, because when he arrives, it really starts moving. So the song itself is kind of a reference to the idea that Thanos has been like hanging around and waiting for this universe to, or when he shows up, things really start getting dramatic. So that one's really, really inside, but, and they, the lyrics aren't super on top of that, but that's, something that the writer of the song said. But my favorite one, so I'm not sure how many of you guys watch Arrested Development, and this one is the Easter egg that I hear the most about. In Civil War, I guess let's go back. The Russo brothers used to work on Arrested Development, and they had directed a couple of episodes. So in Civil War, they worked in the stair car in the airport fight.
Like
it's just like in the background from
car?
Arrested Development. Yeah. It's a blink and you miss it kind of thing, but it is there. And I don't think it is the branding, but the colors are very clear. In this movie, when the team enters the Collector's vault, I think it's Gamora, and this is one where you're only seeing it for a frame, walks by a case that, like, the Collector's, little things for his pets and his animals, and it has a bald man with a mustache wearing cutoff shorts painted blue. So that's your Tobias Blue Man.
No
and
way.
Yeah, this one is from a scene that leaked, like this scene leaked a while ago. I want to say like almost 6 months ago. So you can find this image online, and this is definitely the most Easter eggy of Easter eggs in this movie. It was pretty inside. I mean, there's some other ones, little ones, where it's like that cauldron that Iron Man's leaning on is a thing in Doctor Strange's house, or like Doctor Strange uses the crimson bands of Sidorak on Thanos. But I would say just as more of like, because that's just what he's doing. I wouldn't say that's necessarily an Easter egg. He doesn't say it, but that's what it is. But as far as like small things that had a meaning outside of the movie, I would say Defenders, Rubber Band Man, and Blue Man are probably my favorite ones, just because I love Arrested Development, and I'm shocked that they managed to work that in there. And also what we can read from that scene is that nothing in that room was real. It was all things that Thanos imagined. So that means Thanos is a big fan of Arrested Development. I just thought it would be funny. So it makes me endure Thanos even more. And he's just such a cool guy.
Well, I can see how a purple man could respect a blue man.
There you go. That's right. Hey, Matt, 100 points for you, man. That's why you do what you do. That was good stuff.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's like Whose Lines Anyway, where the points don't matter. Yeah. But no, really, really good stuff. And I also noticed the in the past movies, Ed and I had talked about this on Spider-Man, the Community tie-ins. I don't know if you watched Community, Matt, but I loved the first 4 seasons of that show. But the Dean actually playing the Dean essentially was awesome. Avid checking in and one. I didn't see any
that
community.
Was in Winter Soldier.
I didn't see any community references in this one.
I didn't catch any either. There were, I think, when it came to specifically in that one, it's like we have an actor from like a community thing. Like there was just no room for like background actors unless you were a Wakandan soldier. You had to be like a main character, which was so. Which is fine. I know like one of the writers was at I'm gonna say it's Stephen McFeely, who writes a lot of these movies, was on General Ross's hologram, like on the table somewhere. But that's the only like actor that they managed to sneak in that I can think of. Although it could be a thing where like in a year we found out that Daniel Craig was a stormtrooper. Maybe it'll turn out that someone else. Well, you know what? There's someone did interesting motion capture or something like that. I can't remember what that one was, but there was something like that. But yeah, and then I don't know, it's not an Easter egg, but the whole Peter Dinklage thing. I don't know if this was an Easter egg.
Yeah.
Anybody else that had this thought, but the little spaceship they were on, and we had Peter Dinklage playing like Liffrey or whatever his name is, the dwarf. It looked like the Game of Thrones intro, right? Like spinning rings around a sun.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Yeah, like
was that in? Do you think that was intentional? Or is that
do
just
now.
What
now that you said it,
whatever always looks like.
Yeah, no, good catch by you. Yeah, really, really good stuff. I think we covered the Easter. Anything you guys notice? I think that.
No, I was gonna mention the writer thing because I did hear that today. It just reminded me. He picked it up.
No,
perfectly.
The payroll was pretty high on this movie, so I don't know how many extra, extra guys and gals we could get in there. All right, guys, let's move on to the big, shocking finale here. Now, I had read the comic. Jeff, obviously, I know you'd read the comic. I know a lot of us here had read it. So I wasn't, shocked at the ending. I mean, it was definitely impactful, but I wasn't, as devastated as everyone because, Jeff had said earlier, that's essentially the end of the first comic in the 5-comic series. Or
snapping of his fingers.
Yeah, and then everyone essentially, half the population or half the heroes and half the population of the universe is gone.
Thanos sitting down on the steps at the end of this movie is literally the end of the comics, the six,
right? Yes,
6 comics
with
Adam Warlock at the end.
Do you like the way that they're incorporating, as much as they are incorporating the comic? Is the right amount? Would you rather be closer to the comic?
I mean, you kind of want someone that takes some artistic license, but still stay true to it. Because I think The Watchmen is a perfect example of someone following page to page, and I was never a huge fan of The Watchmen, but I read the graphic novel right before I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting there in the theater, not a huge fan, saying, this is frame by frame, the graphic novel.
Yeah.
Maybe with a couple that were not. But it to me, it didn't flow like a movie. And I felt like with the constrictions that they had copyright-wise and with the story that they had to tell over, since 2008 to now, it's a huge arc.
Yeah,
I thought they did a fantastic job.
I do too. And go ahead. No, I was just gonna say I thought that I loved how they went from planet to planet, world to world. It was like a comic. You would have the nowhere at the bottom of the screen. I thought it was very. I mean, obviously comic booky, but I think it worked, man.
It was only just missing the meanwhile in the corner.
Meanwhile, back at
meanwhile around nowhere.
It was missing a screen wipe from a George Lucas screen wipe.
But anyway, I digress. What did you guys think? I mean, whether you read the comic or not, what was your initial reaction? Chris, we'll start with you, man. What was your initial reaction, when everyone just kind of started vanishing, man? We know how Bree took it.
Oh yes. Well, first I'm gonna take one step back and say how epic Thor's re-entry with that axe was pretty badass.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about that.
We got to talk about that axe. Yeah.
And it comes down and so, I forget who said it was oh, it's on now or whatever they said. I forget what it was.
You guys are so screwed.
Yeah. So I mean that was a a badass moment when he just comes in, he's back full in form like Thor, God of Thunder, and just zaps everybody.
Rocket with the eyeball too.
Yeah.
Groot
That
with
was a cool kind of connective tissue between the. Also, Groot's arm being part of the Stormbreaker axe. Yeah, that was cool. I thought that was a nice touch.
Groot's big moment. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay. So I mean, like you guys, we all kind of knew what was coming. It was inevitable. It was going to come. My wife was just distraught, and more so I think over Spider-Man because she loves Spider-Man. But yeah, it was just I don't know,
that. I think that sums it up. That response it was just
speechless.
He snaps his fingers, and then all of a sudden, just people just start flowing away. And like we said, that obviously the most heartbreaking one was Peter Parker. I mean, that was just
great scene though. Yeah, really emoted. Bae, what did you think when everyone started disappearing?
I was so.
I was talking to Ed. No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
If I may.
Go ahead.
No, it was devastating, and the whole time I'm thinking, "Oh, I hope this person doesn't go. I hope this person doesn't go." And it ended up being way more people than I thought it would, too.
Yeah, you're watching every person's movement. Who's going?
Like all of the Guardians. Just all of them. They just, and including Quill, and that was crazy. And then obviously Spider-Man was so sad because he's just a kid, and Iron Man's kind of like his replacement dad, and he's scared, and he just wants him to save him, and he can't do anything, and that was super sad. And little teen Groot.
Yeah.
And just real quick, I had a thought.
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
So,
I know where you're going.
So, well, you know how you said Groot's arm was part of the axe or whatever, but Rocket had brought Groot back or the new Groot or whatever with the little stick that was left. Yeah, the twig that was left behind. Now he has a whole arm on this axe. Can he use that to bring back another Groot? But that's what was going on.
Interesting.
In my
Good point.
mind, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was just a bummer, and then it just ends, and I was like, wait, that's the end of the movie? That's it?
Yeah, it is. What a shocking ending. Other bag.
So, I mean, really just piggybacking on what they said, because I think we're all in agreement that it was just like a crazy ending. I liked how, everybody disappeared, but it wasn't just like an instantaneous, like, oh, they're gone. Like, everybody's sort of forced to like watch it happen, and like visually it looked cool where they just kind of like turned to dust and disappeared, but like you get that Spider-Man and Iron Man moment, which wouldn't happen if they just disappeared. So I thought that was a cool way of it happening.
Great scene.
And it not all happening at the same time, so like you don't know even until the last moment, like, can it still happen again? Like,
Yeah.
when's this gonna stop?
It's like looking around this room and like what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
like,
I
who's
hated
gonna...
that
Yeah.
Black Panther disappeared. I thought that
Yeah.
the Lady Warrior was gonna go, and then it was him.
Yeah, it was crazy. Jeff, well, I mean, you knew it was coming. What did you think about that whole scene?
I don't know. For me, like, I kind of expected all that
Right.
to some extent. I think the most important thing for me was to see, like, the look on Thanos' face when he like completed his goal, which is what I got. So that made me happy. I know it's a sad negative ending, but I feel like that was most important to making the next movie like even more powerful.
Yeah,
and
For
good
sure.
leading.
moving forward, because like I said earlier, there needs to be some sort of sense of loss. Because if there isn't, then none of this means anything at all.
Absolutely. Matt, what was your? I mean, I'm sure you saw it coming, but what was your initial reaction to the film's approach at this?
Well, I was on the same page. I forget who said that because the order I think is Bucky, and then I think immediately after that it's Black Panther. And when Bucky went like ashed or evaporated or whatever the verb is, you were kind of like, oh, okay, that makes sense. He's kind of expendable in the sense of how these movies work. But then Black Panther, you're like, I almost think like Black Panther dying kind of like almost like hurt it for me, because then I was like, oh, okay, sure, this is the part in the movie where they destroy what's arguably their most successful franchise, and they're just like, we don't want to make any more money. But the Spider-Man one was definitely the best one, although I don't know, I like the shot of M'Baku just like standing and watching all of his dudes disintegrate. I mean, M'Baku had very little to do in this movie, but he was pretty good. Yeah. When that scene happened the first time, you just kind of observe it. When I watched it the second time, like on my second viewing, you started going like, okay, so wait a second, is M'Baku the king of Wakanda now? Is he gonna have to fight Shuri on the waterfall? And like, is Rocket Raccoon is the captain of the Guardians now because all of them are dead but him? Like, there were a couple of those things, like the way that it's going to affect things. Like, I know we've got characters off screen, like, like Ant-Man and Hawkeye and stuff, and I think we're all kind of, I don't think it's been officially said that Ant-Man and the Wasp is a prequel, but it's probably a prequel.
We were wondering about that too.
I think the internet has pretty much decided it is, but I can't find a specific, like, someone saying that. But I'm interested to see, because I don't know, did any of you guys watch the shows? Like, I know they won't do this in Netflix, but do you think they'll do this in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Well, I'm gonna cut you off only because we were talking about this. We started S.H.I.E.L.D. yesterday, and I hit pause on the opening scene, and I'm like, let's watch S.H.I.E.L.D. after we see the movie, because they like to tie little things in, and I hope they did. I'm sure you watched it, so don't tell me.
I haven't seen this week's one, but
okay.
I'm pretty sure, because they screwed up when they did the Winter Soldier reveal in S.H.I.E.L.D. It happened so quickly that fans got mad, because they couldn't see it yet.
Yeah.
And now I know what happened, so I'm pretty sure they didn't put it in, but even if they did, I imagine they would just go, like we're gonna wait 3 weeks.
No,
until
you're
this
probably
is addressed.
See, I love the. See, I saw it worked perfectly for
Yeah,
us
'cause we
because
saw it at
it.
the right
then
time,
we watched
yeah.
Shield, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like the best. But I totally never looked at it that way.
But at this point, like on Shield, they have the Kree and that timeline where Earth gets destroyed. Like,
Yeah, who knows?
In what way and in how are they going to incorporate that stuff?
Yeah, are they even in the
Like,
same
yeah.
the same universe at that point? You know, it's like an alternate world.
Well, I guess the only way to find out is
we'll
to tune
find
in Friday nights at 8 p.m.
See, and the one thing that I was hoping for, and it might not happen. Obviously, it didn't happen in this movie, but maybe not even in the next, was that they were going to incorporate like the grounded Marvel characters into this universe, which is like the Punisher and Jessica Jones and Daredevil, because those guys can still play a role in things that are going on and ways to stop this from happening or fix it.
I'm not gonna lie, I totally always forget that it's the same universe because they're so different.
Yeah.
And they may not be, because I don't know,
Yeah.
Netflix and Disney's
Yeah,
deal may not.
Yeah, I mean they reference the Avengers in the other shows all the time, in the incident in New York, you know.
And Sam
Yeah.
Jackson was legit on Shield, which was awesome. He came up big too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they talk about the Avengers and
direct result of this, why they hate
supers.
What they haven't done though is take a character from the shows and put them in the movies, and I'm convinced that that's never going to happen.
Because
Yeah.
I just don't think it will.
Yeah, I agree.
except for obviously Coulson, who started on the movies.
Right?
went to
Yeah.
TV,
So he went from the movies
and
to
will be
TV.
back,
Yeah.
which I'm so thrilled about. Coulson is my homeboy. I digress. This is a perfect lead-in, Jeff. Like what you were saying. I mean, who do we expect to see in this next movie? I'm going to just say, throw it out there. Wolverine, no. I know.
Not
I
gonna
have a problem,
happen.
but honestly, I'm going to say Hawkeye. I think this is the
Yeah,
opportunity for
guaranteed.
people
Silver
to check in.
Surfer.
Can this
that would be
this
so
Disney
awesome.
deal with what 20th Century Fox or what was it, or Sony rather? What was the deal with?
It can't be a coincidence
Oh,
that
yes.
that. Sorry, I'm.
Well, I guess there's two. Depends on which characters. But if you're talking about the X-Men,
They got
it's the
Spider-Man.
Fox one.
Yeah, right. And so, what do you guys think? I mean, who do you guys think we're going to see in this next one? I think just the door's wide open at this point. I'm going to just be very optimistic and say never say never. Jeff, I'm going to throw it to you. Are we going to see Deadpool in the next movie?
Well, historically speaking, comic books, the only person that could drive the Mad Titan mad is Deadpool. Not only because they love the same woman, quote unquote woman, but because Deadpool can't be killed. And there's a Deadpool versus Thanos comic where Thanos literally just keeps killing Deadpool over and over again. Deadpool keeps coming back to life, just mentally torturing him. So
That's crazy.
it would be funny, but I don't know if it would fit into this storyline. I think that there's going to be 3 that we see. I think we're going to see Silver Surfer.
Oh, yes, please.
I think we're going to see the rest of the Celestials. And I think that we're going to see that Stan Lee is one of the Watchers. And that we're going to see the Watchers.
Stanley's cameo, by the way, was awesome.
Yeah,
Was good. Yeah.
You know what's even better? Yo, you know what's even better about it? Like, while all that stuff's happening, like, I'm always the person who thinks, well, what about the bus driver? Like, why isn't the bus driver reacting, or why isn't he,
Just
stopping the bus, or
driving.
da-da-da? And then it just goes to the bus driver and Stanley go, haven't you ever seen a spaceship before? Perfect.
Well, it's
Yeah.
such a classic New York thing where,
Yes.
like,
New
shit's
York-
exploding and the New York driver's like, hey, watch where you're going. And there's, like, a bridge blowing up, but that's just a normal day in New York.
Yeah.
You know?
It was perfect. It was perfect. Ed, I'm going to throw it to you. Who do you think
Okay.
might show up? Or
All right, so thinking about it in terms of like contracts and availability,
Yeah, that's a hard
I
part.
will say that like the whole Disney merger, like I know that that's not going to go through until sometime next year, and most of Avengers 4 has already been filmed, so I don't think
Has
any
it?
20th Century Fox characters are going to show up unless they pull a fast one. Like from what's like openly available as far as people have said and when things are going to be finalized, I don't think they'll have access to them at all. Unfortunately, like I would love to see Silver Surfer. I think that would be like the coolest thing in my
key part of
opinion.
this story.
They leased Spider-Man from Sony.
Right.
So
Ding,
it's
ding, 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 ding,
possible
ding,
Yeah.
ding.
They could lease characters, technically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
think,
for sure.
I think if any X-Men popped in, it would be Wolverine, because that whole universe is such a disaster Like there's like so many like stories going on, and they're like, oh no, we undid the third movie now, so you have no idea where anyone is or like what actor would play that person besides Hugh Jackman is the only consistent one.
Give me Hugh Jackman and Robert Downey Jr. in a scene together.
I feel like though if you throw Hugh Jackman in, then you have to sort of acknowledge that the X-Men movies are connected in some way, which I don't know how I feel about that.
The X-Men movies aren't even connected to the X-Men movies.
Well, exactly. I feel like it just
point.
messes with the MCU when you bring those in. Like, I feel like Deadpool would be a clean transition without recasting because he's just, sort of an absurd character. He can operate on those levels where you can just be like, oh, yeah, that's ridiculous, and it's Deadpool, and it works.
Yeah, and I feel like they could even make it work where he'd be like, well, I can't curse in this movie because of Disney.
Yeah.
Like, they can make a big joke out of it.
It'd be funny if he was fighting Thanos and after the Deadpool 2 movie, and he was like, didn't I already kick your ass?
Chris, did I ask you yet who do you think might check in, or any like hopeful favorite heroes or anyone you think's gonna check in? Luke Skywalker? No, just kidding.
Right. Well, I mean, like we were talking about before, they brought it up at the end of Guardians 2, but you still got Adam Warlock to check in.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. Yeah,
and he's like literally the most major character from the good side.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously Captain Marvel is coming in.
Yes. Oh, totally. Yeah, we'll get there. Yes.
Her at the end, which, by the way, I love that he's paging her.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get there. Yeah, we're gonna touch on that in just a second. And guys, I'm literally getting messages. Oh, what you think? Are you guys doing a podcast? So we're in high demand over here.
Oh yes.
For the record, Luke Skywalker doesn't need to be in it. He could just project himself.
You could just fly.
Here we go.
Matt. This is not a Last Jedi hating podcast. We already did.
Sorry.
Matt, who do you think might check in, or who are your hopefuls?
I don't know. Like, I think the only Marvel character, because let's say we are getting to the end of Phase 3 and things are really going to take a big shift, and maybe we kill some main characters, and some of them are Iron Man and Captain America. And maybe this would be like, a small thing. We'd meet someone and they're in the middle of a fight. I wouldn't want someone like MODOK to just show up, have him be doing a thing, and it's not important to the plot at all, but he's just there, and then whoever's fighting him beats him, and then we're done. Like, because I don't think, I would say we're almost 100% definitely not getting the Fox characters. I wouldn't mind if we got someone like the Living Tribunal or something like that, because he's traditionally connected to the Infinity Stones, but I don't know. I feel like we've gotten so many characters. You know who would be cool?
Who?
Let's say they've killed. Let's say the plot of the next one involves creating a team of whoever's left and other characters in this universe that haven't died. I wouldn't mind Beta Ray Bill now that we have Stormbreaker. I think you could squeeze him in here kind of comfortably. Do some sort of space thing, bump into him, and then now he has Stormbreaker and he just gets to go off and do his own thing. Especially if Thor dies and we need new Thor. Yes. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, so you kind of see somewhat of an ushering out of the. I mean, it has to happen at some point. I mean, I fully went into this movie thinking that's it for Iron Man. Like, I think most people thought Cap was going to go out in some capacity just because of the comic books, the Civil War stories, and all that. But I'm like, Iron Man started this all. He's kind of the leader. I just think
he's the oldest.
He's self-sacrificed himself a few times. I saw him going out. So that scene where he got stabbed, I thought that was pretty much it.
I thought
I went to this movie fully expecting him to go out.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he didn't.
See, I think that they used Hulk as the emissary to letting everyone know that Thanos was coming to Earth, which was Silver Surfer's role.
Silver Surfer in the comics, yep.
But I could see in the next movie them using Silver Surfer as the person that's letting the Celestials, to inform the humans that the Celestials are coming to join the fight or something of that nature. Because I would love to see. Listen, after seeing Galactus be a fart cloud in Fantastic Four, we all want to see Galactus check in and handle business.
And he needs redemption real bad.
Plus, Thanos and Galactus have a history of fighting each other. It's comic over comic over comic, and Silver Surfer obviously has fought Galactus. It would just be a great relationship all around to see all those guys involved, so I can see like which side they take and where it goes from there.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Where the hell is Lady Sif?
Lady Sif
Yeah.
was
Like last I
not.
saw her was on Agents
She was
of
on
S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And
the last
is she just
time.
chilling on Earth somewhere? Because is she still alive? Could she
I
check
know they
in?
weren't able to get her for Thor Ragnarok, but they pretty much like axed all his friends anyway.
Yeah, the
Yeah, but I
Warriors
think
3
Thor
were
got
killed.
But she's
Yeah,
not
but
killed.
she was
She's
no,
just
she just
yeah.
wasn't there.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And she was like a pretty main character. I thought.
Yeah.
I remember watching Thor and being like, listen, Natalie Portman's really hot, but if I was Thor and I was like a Viking god,
Lady
Sif would be
Sif.
my girl. Like,
Yeah.
like there's
Someone who
no
could be on
question
your-
about it.
Yeah, someone who's an equal.
Yeah, and yeah, like he couldn't even relate to Natalie Portman. She's just like, yeah, science, and he's like smashing mugs on the ground. There was really no dynamic there.
Yeah. I get you guys are so realistic about this. Like my heart is slowly breaking. You know what? I'm gonna rub it in your faces when Hugh Jackman checks in and saves the day. Wolverine's a big part of the Avengers. Just saying.
Listen. It would
I'd love to be
It
wrong.
would be amazing if it happened. It's just I'm not going to get my hopes up and then
I
be let
already
down
did.
because I know you're wearing like a full head to toe Wolverine outfit right now.
I am indeed.
Including the Yankee hats.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
And also, is Valkyrie dead? What the hell happened?
I was gonna. I
No.
forgot to bring
Where the
that
hell
up.
is she?
Yeah, they had everyone pretty much check in. So for Hawkeye, they had pretty much everyone check in this movie, which I thought was great. They really, did its due diligence. That's the one. But yeah, I was wondering where was Valkyrie.
Some Asgardians escaped, I guess. I've read something today, I guess, and Thor made some kind of mention about how, like, Thanos killed most of the Asgardians.
Crazy.
Yeah, he said half, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Exactly half.
yeah,
Because
so
he's very fair, perfectly balanced,
Yeah.
as all things should be, or whatever. But yeah, like I said, I think the writers get to choose which ones lived and died. But I don't see a scenario where someone invades the ship and Valkyrie doesn't go down fighting. Unless Ebony Maw just took everybody and stuffed them in a pod with telekinesis and was like, goodbye. You don't really have a choice. But yeah, I think I don't know. She's too popular, though. I think she'll show up again.
yeah,
because
she's
Maybe there's room for her in the
there.
next one.
She can
To-
pop in, and she could have been like, "Hey," like her and Thor could have been like, "Hey, you stay and fight. I'm going to protect half our people, so we don't go extinct."
She can check in the next one.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that
Maybe
she's
with Lady
confirmed
Sif.
for Avengers
Where the hell is
4. She's already confirmed that she's going to be in it, so
Nice. All right. There you go. Girl power. All right.
Yeah.
Very cool. And last but not least, did you want to say something, Chris? Go ahead.
Well, now that we saw the previews, Venom's a possibility.
Yeah.
Womp, womp, womp.
People of Gotham.
Joker. Where was I? Last but not least, guys, there were not 2 post-credit scenes. There was only one, which I thought actually worked.
Motherfucker.
How great was that? I mean, first of
So
all,
good.
Best line of the movie.
I went into the theater today thinking, I wonder if Colby Smulders is going to
Yeah.
be in it. I didn't expect to see Sam Jackson in any capacity. So it was cool to just see them at the end. Just them being there for me, I was like, all right, this is already a win. I love that everything connects. I love the whole S.H.I.E.L.D. thing. And then him fading out, hitting essentially what I'll call a beeper, and then saying mother in the Disney movie and fading out before he could say it in true Samuel Jackson
Yeah.
fashion.
It was probably my favorite
Amazing.
moment of the movie.
Amazing, funny, and also built the storyline because on the beeper, or I'm calling it a beeper.
It was a beeper.
Yeah,
We
totally a
see-
beeper.
It was a beeper.
It was
Yeah.
a beeper.
We see. It took me a second to get there, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Galactic beeper.
Go ahead, Kate.
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel.
Oh, yeah.
Kate is very
Carol
excited.
Danvers.
What does this mean, guys? What did you guys think of the end scene, and what do you think this means?
I mean, it's definitely a good lead into the Captain Marvel movie, and just knowing that she
ding,
had.
ding, ding.
You're so funny. And just knowing that she had a relationship with
Nick Fury.
Nick Fury, thank you. I couldn't think of his name for whatever reason. Yeah, knowing that she had a relationship with Nick Fury and Colby Smulders' character.
Movie's
and,
gonna be good.
Maria Hill.
Thank you.
Coulson is my
See,
homeboy.
that's
I'm
why
here for
Ed
you.
is here. He knows all the names of the characters that I can't remember.
So
Even if
I'm
I
kinda
mix them up.
ignorant to the whole Captain Marvel thing. What's her power level? Because I've heard some people saying she's as powerful as Superman,
She's
and I've read a lot of
essentially-
comics in my life.
She's essentially Supergirl in the Marvel
Yeah,
universe.
kind of on
Her
the
name is
level.
even the same thing. Carol Danvers. It's
Yeah.
basically the same character.
So it's
I
like
always
Wade
got
Wilson,
confused by
Slade
it.
Wilson.
it's
that kind of thing.
it's kind
Yeah.
of like that. She's essentially Supergirl in the Marvel universe.
So she's pretty damn powerful.
Yes.
She should be. Yeah.
And what's her source of power?
I don't know, maybe
I
she's
think
from a
her
planet
origin
called
is going to be
Krypton?
somewhat altered for the movie universe. So I don't really know like what they're going to do with it. But it's some kind of like Kree-based power.
Yeah.
I can't say much more than that.
Kree-based?
Do you know a lot about
Yeah.
Captain Marvel, Matt?
Not more. I mean, it seems like the things that they would usually do with her, they're not going to do in this movie. Like we know, Jude Law is playing Marvel, her
Yeah.
like the original Captain Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Back when she was Miss Marvel, and then she like got his powers. But from what I've heard, he might not have powers in this movie. He might be like a Hank Pym type
Gotcha.
character,
Yeah.
just like a mentor. So I have no idea. I assume she's just going to show up and absorb some insane amount of stuff and then be really great. But I think I've heard, it might have even been Kevin Feige say that when she shows up, she will be the strongest character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or at least strongest good guy. I don't know how that stacks up against Thanos. But yeah, I think she's going to be, I wouldn't say she's going to be a game breaker, but I think she's going to be pretty, like she's going to help tilt the scales. I don't know where she's been or why he hasn't called her before, because things have been pretty bad. Like that time the Dark Elf was going to destroy all of reality. But I don't know, maybe he couldn't find the beeper that day.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
They'll
Like,
have some excuse.
She's gonna be
she
powerful.
can't tilt the scales, but maybe she knows Celestials or other people that can assist in this fight.
How does he know she didn't disappear, though?
Well, that's my theory. Like going into it was somehow that she's been taken out of commission in some way. Like I almost thought that she would be like stuck in the quantum realm, or she was stuck in the Soul Stone or something like that. Which I guess it could still be a thing with the quantum realm, but she's not in the Soul Stone. But that's what made me curious about the post-credit scene. Is like, really, what does that mean? Because has she just been like hanging out, like waiting for a call? Like it seems a little bit lazy to do it that way. So I feel like there's going to be some sort of explanation in her movie as to why, and maybe like the concept of the beeper will play into that. Because like, why would you be using a beeper if she's just like hanging out at home?
Because her movie, right, is like based in like the 90s, or
Right,
something, right?
yeah.
Like, where beepers were still
Yeah.
kind of a thing.
And
more
also,
stoked for this
also
movie.
like she's not going. I'm sure that she's not going to be aged in any different way. Like her movie set in the 90s, and then roughly 25, 30 years later, she's going to be the same person.
Yeah, like Cap.
Yeah, so I feel like there has to be something
Yeah,
to connect
maybe
the
she's
two
gonna be in
times.
like some Marvel version of a Phantom Zone. Like
Yeah,
stuck
exactly.
In there.
That
The Ghost
seems
Zone.
to make the most sense to me. Like she's stuck
Or
somewhere.
stuck in space, or
yeah.
some nonsense like that.
I could see her being on some mission that's just really important. Like it's like you have to go, kill all the Skrulls, or you have to fight all the Celestials, and just like keep doing that until we absolutely need you. Then we'll call you back. But like, you're busy doing your thing, and I've got this guy with a hammer and this really obnoxious billionaire, so I think we'll be okay until something. I guarantee she'll be on some like off-world mission, and then I guess he'll just beep her. But I'd be interested to see what that is. I mean, we're getting the Skrulls, we're getting Ronan back. We have a lot of characters that are going to show up in her movie that could be important. I don't know.
I'm excited. I'm like getting more excited for this. When does this movie drop, or when's it coming?
March 8th, 2019.
That's not that bad.
There you go.
Time between like Ant-Man and the Wasp and then Captain Marvel, where there's a drought
Less than a year.
of MCU movies. It's a bummer.
Yeah, for sure. The expectations are so high after this one too.
I'm gonna be waiting for the joke at the end of the next movie where someone says, "I'll page you." It's gonna happen.
Should be interesting. All right, guys. I think we covered anything else you guys want to add, or I think we covered it. I'm seeing a lot of thinking faces.
Oh, I really hope that Zuri becomes the next Black Panther.
Zuri is the
cool.
next Black Panther.
I
I
think
like
that'd
it.
be
Yeah,
sick.
Zuri's
Yeah. She's
scene
amazing,
stealer right
and I love
there.
her.
Yeah, could have used a little more Zuri in this one for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Shuri.
I would love to see the X-Men show up so I could see Cyclops blow his own eyes out like he did in the comic.
Optic blast.
That's it.
I'm just really impressed by Marvel. They, besides just the fact that they did this, there's so much if you watch the trailers again, there's so many shots that aren't there. That big group shot where everyone charges in that was at the end of every trailer wasn't in there. There's scenes where, like, Thanos was fighting dudes with the Infinity Gauntlet, but they edited out gems. So even if you watch the trailer, like that, specifically that shot where he's holding Steve down, if you watch it, he's only got the purple and the blue one in the trailer, but then once that happens in the movie, he has all of them but the Mind Stone. So, like, there was a bit, specifically the bit where he was fighting with the Collector, and then the reality thing happened, and that was like, I haven't had a moment like that in a while. Like, oh shit, this is not what I expected it was at all. Like, things are very, like, things could go in any different direction now. So I'm impressed. It feels like they've really grown, you know, as a studio, and kind of the scope, but also the maturity. I would say, and I've said this before, this movie is not for kids. People should stop taking children to it. I heard a story where a person went to this movie. They just, you know, the whole movie happened. The end happens. Everyone is just in silence, and then this little 8-year-old dressed as Spider-Man just starts crying. Like,
Oh, no.
But how do you tell someone? You can't be like, hey, by the way, I don't want to spoil the movie for you, but don't take your kid that loves Spider-Man to it, because it probably won't turn out great for him. So it is. I don't think I've seen a movie like this in a really long time where you can't in any way kind of describe it to people without spoiling it to them, or how you felt, like, which is really cool. And it has the highest opening weekend in history now. They made $250 million in the U.S., which is like $70 more than Star Wars Episode 7 made. So they're technically the highest one. Yeah, so like that word of mouth mixed with that kind of like, I want to get back on the internet, so I just need to see this movie so I cannot be spoiled by it. I think it was definitely helpful. But yeah, no, it was great. Thank God for the Russo brothers.
Yeah, it was great.
I give them a lot of credit, because this movie, Civil War and Winter Soldier, were both such good, kind of, as Matt said, like, mature stories, which I loved about all three of those movies.
Yeah.
Well, I think Disney stayed like true to what they are, which is like, you have behind you a Lion King picture frame, and you know, it's just a live action version of like the heartache and the you know, the sorrow and loss that you feel in Disney movies that are usually a cartoon, but in this instance it's live action. And I personally, like, I grew up watching Jim Henson and stuff like that, where it was just to feel like loss was a normal part of growing up. And I think it's good that they're kind of bringing that into the live action a little bit.
Yeah, very good point.
Yeah, Disney does like to break your heart.
No,
Disney will get you.
They should, because I don't think things should be painted, you know, gold for everybody.
And then something bad happens and you freak out.
Yeah, exactly, because then you don't know how to live your life, right? You know, children should experience this
Lion
stuff.
King, the most devastating death when I was 6.
They crushed it as a Disney stockholder.
Yeah, they kill it. It was awesome.
Disney does a great job all around. We like those guys. No, but really great movie. I think we'll end it on that note. Media blackout over for me. No, back on Facebook. Guys, I appreciate your time. I hope you guys are excited to see Wolverine in the next movie. It's going to be off the hook. Bub.
I'll cry.
Yeah.
If it happens, I'll cry.
By the dude from Twilight?
No. No, I will walk. I will walk out of the theater. Guys, you guys, I appreciate all of your time. Of course, make sure you follow Matt. He's got his YouTube channel, Nando versus Movies, and it's awesome. Yeah, check that out too. But Matt, I appreciate your time. K, Ed, Jeff, Chris, guys, thank you for your time.
Pirate
And
Angel.
we shall assemble when the next Avengers movie comes out. Guys, we're out.
good.
Peace.
Man,
Peace.
Pirate
Bye.
Angel.
Woo.
Look at his muscles.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of the Bob Culture Podcast. If you'd like to support the show on patreon.com for some great incentives, check out patreon.com/BobCulturePodcast. I'd like to thank my newest patrons, Mike and Michelle Vermillion from Sledgepad LLC. Sledgepad is the revolutionary bass drum dampening system that make blankets in your bass drum a thing of the past. I love my Sledgepad and is currently being used by drummers from national acts such as Pink and Collective Soul. Use my code BOBMAN007 at checkout for a special discount. Check them out at sledgepad.com. Finally, don't forget to support the show by leaving a review on iTunes or give me a like on facebook.com/BobCulturePodcast.